Welcome to Vinyl Cutting Basics using the Silhouette Cameo 3, presented by the Mount Royal University Library Maker Studio. In this video, you will learn some basic vinyl cutting skills using the Silhouette Cameo 3, which is a die cutting tool available in the Maker Studio. For more project ideas, resources, and information, you can go to the Maker Studio website, which is found on the Mount Royal University Library website under Spaces. In this video, we will go over what a die cutter is, what materials can be used in the Silhouette Cameo 3, available tools. We will also go over some basics with Silhouette Studio, which is the proprietary software for the Silhouette Cameo 3. There will be demonstrations on how to weed or remove unwanted vinyl, and you will learn how to transfer your design to your project using transfer paper. So what is a die cutter? A die cutter is a computer-controlled machine which controls the movement of a blade over the surface of material. This allows you to add fine, detailed cuts to your project, which would be exceedingly difficult to do by hand. Here we have listed some of the most common materials used with the Silhouette Cameo 3. These materials are not available in the Maker Studio and must be provided by the user. They are available for purchase at many craft stores. So let's start talking about the tools we can use for the projects we make using the Silhouette. First, you need a cutting mat. The Maker Studio provides 12 by 12 inch and 12 by 24 inch mats for you to use with the Silhouette. The mat has an adhesive on its surface which will hold down your material while the Silhouette cuts. There are many different tools to use depending on your project and material. For this video, I will be cutting vinyl, and the tools I will be using are the picker for weeding and the scraper, which helps to transfer the vinyl. The Maker Studio has many tools available for you to use. Silhouette Studio is a free software which gives you the ability to design projects to send to any Silhouette electronic cutting machine. To download Silhouette Studio, go to silhouetteamerica.com and click on the software icon. Then go to current version and download whichever version works for your computer. Okay, when you get Silhouette Studio downloaded and then set up on your computer and you open it up, it's going to look like this. So let's talk a little bit about navigation before we get into creating our design. So this is your workspace. This looks exactly like the mat that I showed you in the previous slide. We can adjust the size of it in different settings. And yes, this is a 12 by 12 mat. If you'd like to see the grid lines that are on the mat as well, you can go to View and then Show Grid. And voila, you've got your grid lines. So up here we have our general document management, things like save, open file, print, that kind of thing. Over here are the standard editing tools, you know, like undo, redo, copy, paste, cut, and then over here we have the zooming tools to take a better look at your design. So there's things like pan, zoom in, zoom out, that kind of stuff. Okay. And then on the side here, Silhouette has a bunch of tools that you can use, and we're going to get into some of these today, but not a lot of them today. If you actually need more information about this software, they have a great manual which is available through the software. So you actually just click on Help, and then it opens up a user's manual. And you can take a look through this PDF, and it has instructions on how to do a lot of the different things this software offers. Okay, now on the left-hand side here, we have the drawing tools. And over here, we have our different files, so our different designs. This is the one that I'm on right now. I haven't actually put anything into it, so it's called Untitled. But over here, this is what I'm making today, is this quote that I've already created for you guys, and I'm going to do it again on my blank one here. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this stuff over here. This is your design. This is like your design function. We'll be creating it here. Silhouette Studio or Silhouette has a store, which if you click on it will open up a website that will allow you to buy designs, or there are some free ones as well that people have created. And over here is your library. So when you connect the Silhouette Cameo 3 to your Silhouette Studio, it'll actually give you a bunch of free designs. These are all just designs that I've purchased or gotten for free. And then when you're ready to send your design to the machine, you just click on send and it'll show you a preview of what it will look like, and you can set your settings here. So we'll do that in just a minute. All right, let's go back to design and yeah, let's get started creating our quote. Okay, let's get started creating our quote. So we're going to need some text. If you go over to the drawing tools and select the A, then you can click on your workspace and you can start writing your text. So you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. Excellent. And I would like to, give credit to the author of the quote. I don't really want to have the name though in with this group of text. I'd like to be able to move it independently. So I'm going to click off and then I'm going to choose the text tool again and click back on my workspace and write the author's name. There we go. Okay, now if you'd like to move your text, you can just click and drag. You can do that with any of the shapes. All right, I don't really like the font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the text. Now you can see when I click on the text, I get a bounding box. It'll tell me the measurements of the bounding box, and it has these little white squares which are called handles. Handles are for clicking and dragging to scale. And the little green dot is for rotating. Okay, and don't forget you can undo up here, or you can use Control Z or Command Z if you're using a Mac. All right, so I'd like to change the font. I have it selected. I've clicked once. If I click twice, then I start editing the text, right? I don't want to do that right now. I want to just change the font. So I'm going to click off again, click on the font or the text, and you can see up here what appears is called the Quick Access Toolbar. That is Silhouette trying to guess what I'm doing. So I've clicked on text, so it says, hey, how about these tools? These are great for editing text. You can use these, or you can go over to the right and click on one of these tools. The one you want is the A, which is the text style panel. Opens up there. Okay, so here's a whole bunch of different options for editing text. I'm pretty good with the space and everything. I'm just going to change the font. Now you can, this list of fonts in your font library comes with some, but if you'd like to add some, say you download some to your computer, it automatically populates in the font library, which is great. If you do it while it's open though, you'll have to close down Silhouette and reopen it for it to appear here. Okay, so I've got this one done. I'm going to click on the author, change that. Now the author, to me, it's a little bit big. So I'm going to make it a little smaller, and I can do that by changing the point size, which is here, 72, or I could change it here. So I'm going to change it to 45. There, it's a good size. I'm just going to drag it over. Looks great, except there's a couple problems. So I'm going to be putting this quote onto a book. The book is 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So I'm going to draw a rectangle to give me some reference. So if I go over here, click on the shape tool, then click on rectangle and start drawing a rectangle. And now I can actually just change the shape of it or the size of it up here. There's width and height. So width, I'm going to do 5.5 inches, and height, I'm going to change to 8.5 inches. enter. There's my book for reference. Now I'm still on the shape tool. I don't want to keep drawing rectangles, so I'm going to choose the selection tool. I'm going to click and drag. Now remember, this is an exact replica of your mat. So wherever you're putting your stuff, that's where on the mat it will cut. So if you wanted to, really, I could just cut a piece of vinyl when I get ready to put on the mat. That would go right here. And then I don't have to waste any of this vinyl. It's pretty handy. Now my quote is not fitting on my book. So when I click it, I can change the size. I could click and drag, but then it starts to get skewed. I'm just going to undo that. So what I'm going to do is double click, and then you can see I get this bar. It's really great. If I pull the bar, it gives my text a little more room, but I want it to actually fit onto my book. It's not going to fit. It's too big. So you know what I'm going to do? I am going to click on it once, and I'm going to change the point size of that one. Let's try 50 and see how that looks. That's pretty good. If this is my book, this is my text, looks not too bad. Double click, and then once you're in this editing mode for your text, to move it, you could click off it and then get the bounding box again. But what I'm going to do is grab this little icon and then I can move it. It's a little tricky though, because it also, if you come up to a line, it will start, or a path, it'll start to follow the path. There we go. Maybe I will just click and drag it. Okay. I want to maybe start this on a separate line. And you know what? I think maybe I would like it to be centered. So if I go up here to the quick access toolbar, I can change it, or I could change it here. There, that looks pretty good to me. Now let's bring in the author. Ooh, now it's really big. So let's change the shape of that. But you know what? I'm going to do that in a minute so I can show you a separate way of changing your scale. So there is a problem though at this point. So if I zoom in, and I could do that using the zoom tool, you can see that my letters are overlapping, and they're overlapping because they're separate individual letters. If I double click on them, you know, I can still edit them as text, but I don't want to. I would like it, I don't need it overlapping. If it does that, it'll cut over top of other parts of the word. Silhouette is a blade that follows a path, and this red line is the path. So you can see here this H goes over the A, and that'll be a separate little sticker bit, and it'll come off. That's not what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool called Weld. And let's select this, and you can come over here. I'm going to close the text style, and I'm going to choose this tool. It's the Modify panel. So the Modify panel option opens up, and that's where Weld is. So if I click on that, what I have selected turns into shapes. And now I cannot edit it as text anymore. And you can see that it's actually grouped now to whatever it's connected. Like this Y, I can move it separately away because it's not connected, but these two are connected and I can move them separately. Let's undo that, undo. Okay, so let's also do the author. There's a shortcut I'd like to show you. Just right click after you have it selected and choose Weld. There we go. Now, because these are shapes, instead of text, I can change the size or the scale up here, width and height, just like I did with the rectangle. So, or I could actually use the handles. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the handles, and I'm just going to shrink this, and then I can eyeball it, and I can see if I like it. Let's take a look. I'm just going to zoom out. Oh, it looks good to me. Okay, so here's my book, and here's the text. Awesome. So I don't actually need to keep this anymore. I'm going to delete it. Just hit backspace or delete. Okay, now I'd like all of this to move together. So I'm going to select all of it, and I'm going to group it. I'm going to do that by right-clicking and selecting Group. Now, no matter where I click, it selects the entire design, and I can move it together. All right, this looks pretty good to me. I think it might be time to send it to the machine and get it to cut. So if I go up here, remember I'm in the design function, I can go to send. Now the reason that it looks like this, let's zoom in again. This is giving you a preview. Anywhere you see a bright red line, it's telling you that's where it's going to cut. So this gives you a chance to take a look and make sure that it's going to cut exactly where you want it to. Let's go over to our options. So we'll be using matte vinyl for a material. If you open up this drop-down menu, there are lots of options for material. Basically, if you see it here, it's something that you can use in the Silhouette, which is great. The action is cut. There are pens that you can replace the blade with, and it'll sketch instead of cut. So you could choose that, but we are cutting. And we're using the auto blade, which is great. You don't have to set it to a certain depth. It'll figure it out for you. And then over here, no, we're good. We're just cutting. And because it's on auto blade, it actually has these things figured out already based on the material and the function that you want it to do. You can change this later though if it doesn't work. Okay, so I don't have the machine hooked up yet. I'm just going to do that and then we'll get started cutting our design. So you can see that we have the Silhouette Cameo 3 now connected to the computer. You can tell that because it says ready in green here for its status. So there are two ways you can connect the Silhouette Cameo 3 to the computer. One you can do through Bluetooth and the other is through a USB cable that comes with the machine. So if you click on this icon here, it'll show you that there are two ways of connecting. It can pick up the Bluetooth, which is the symbol right here, and that's how I have mine connected, or you can do it through USB and a direct cable here. So we're ready to send our design to the machine, and you can tell that because the send button isn't grayed out anymore, but there's something we have to do before we do that. We need to actually load the mat with the vinyl into the machine. So let's do that first. Here we have the 12 by 12 inch mat. So you have to take the cover off and then you can add your vinyl. Here I'm putting on a full piece of vinyl, so a 12 by 12 piece of vinyl. You don't have to. You can make sure that you can cut a piece of vinyl that's bigger than your design and just make sure that it's on the mat where you had put your design on the grid. So line it up. But for this one, I just wanted to show how you can do the whole mat. Just make sure that the vinyl is in the grid and not along the borders. So just push it down and make sure that it's stuck to the adhesive that's on the mat. And make sure you don't take the backing off the vinyl. You can see, there we go, fits into the 12 by 12 grid. Here's the ports on the side of the Silhouette. We've got the one for power, your USB port, the USB stick port, and your power button. Turn on your machine, and then you can lift up the lid, and you'll be able to see the interactive panel. Now when you load in your grid, or your mat, you want to make sure that the black arrow is pointing towards the machine. There are two blue arrows on the side of the Silhouette and you need to line up the sides of the mat to those arrows. Also, there's these two little white wheels and they need to be lined up to the edges where the vinyl isn't. You hit load and then it loads up your mat with your vinyl attached. Then from the software, you hit send and it starts cutting. So what it will do first is it will actually make sure that the blade is the right depth to coincide with the settings that you set in the software. And then it'll start cutting out your design. You have to make sure that the Cameo has enough space behind it for the mat to move back and forth, especially if you're doing a long design, because you can do something on a 12 by 24 inch mat. So just make sure it's in the middle of a table. When it's finished, you hit unload, and then you remove the vinyl with the backing from the mat. Be sure to put the green cover back onto the sticky mat, or it won't stay sticky for long. There you can see it's fully cut out. So just cut out the vinyl around where your design is and start weeding away the part of the vinyl that you don't want to keep. So in this case, I want to keep the actual design, so I'm taking away the extra. I'm peeling it back from the backing. Okay, so now we need to get rid of all of the inside bits of vinyl that we don't want. Like for instance, the inside of the bottom of that Y, the inside of an O, the inside of an A. And for that, I would use this picker tool. It's a little hook tool, and it's really an amazing tool for this kind of work. So there we have our design ready to be transferred. So what you can do is use transfer paper. I prefer to use the lining for inside a drawer. It's called contact paper, as long as it has to be transparent. It's a lot cheaper than transfer paper. Either one works. So you just make sure that you cut a piece of transfer paper a little bit bigger than your design, and then you peel off the clear transfer paper from its backing. And then you place down the sticky side of the transfer paper over top of your design. The idea here is that transfer paper or contact paper is adhesive, but not as adhesive as the vinyl. So we're going to move the whole design at once and put it onto our project. So I'm just going to use the scraper now to make sure it pushes down really hard onto the transfer paper, and so you see it's picking up my design. Okay, so there we go. It is completely onto the transfer paper. And now we can place it onto our book. So you line it up, use the scraper to push down your design, and because it's very sticky, the vinyl will stay onto your project, and you can take the transfer paper off. Make sure that your project or the material you're putting the vinyl onto is clean. And there it is. I hope you've enjoyed this video. For more resources, you can go to the Maker Studio website found on the MRU Library website under Spaces. And for more ideas from Silhouette Cameo, you can go to www.silhouette101.com, where they have tutorials and project ideas. If you have further questions, you can contact the Maker Studio at makerstudio@mtroyal.ca, or you can email the Maker Studio staff.